Hello, everyone. This is County Historian Larry Tippin, Putnam County Historian. We've been doing a series of what we call tiny towns, vantage villages of Putnam County. Today, we're going to talk about Horntown, the community northeast Cloverdale Township, about 5 or so miles south of Bell Union, which had a post office for just a few years around the turn of the century. Horntown basically consisted of the Michael and the Horn families. Jonathan Michael, who was born in Virginia in 1811, came to Putnam County about 1850. And then John Horn, who was born in North Carolina about 1820, came to Putnam County about 1860. So we see that they're not early settlers of the county. They came later. And the community that we call Horntown, you can see this several miles east of Cloverdale, and then this is the Bell Union Road. So it's about 5 or 6 miles south of Bell Union. This is the road map of Putnam County. The only thing marked is cemetery on this map. This is a real cool map. We use this a lot to find places. It has a lot of communities that are not on other maps, and we don't have very many other maps about the 1910, 1912 era. This is the postal routes where they show the post offices and the people that carry the mail carriers. So you see Michael, Underwood, Burnham in the Horntown area. You see the schools marked, and that's the only thing marked. This is 1864 map of Putnam County, courtesy of the Library of Congress. It's online, very cool map. And it shows that school, then the Michaels and the Horns in section 3536, northeastern Cloverdale Township. And then 1879, we see section 3536 again. We see the Horns, the Michaels. The school is noted, and also a cemetery. A cemetery is found a resting place of about a dozen members of the Horn and the Michaels families. They call it the Horn Cemetery, sometimes called Horn/Michael. We'd like to go to the newspapers. Again, they're free and available. Hoosier State Chronicles. This is a very interesting and very useful article, which notes the establishment of the rural free mail delivery service, which is be effective October 1, 1901. So we know when this started for statewide, or nationwide, actually, excuse me. Rural free delivery started October 1st, 1901. And they're saying that Cloverdale and Putnam County has one carrier, the length and the miles and so forth. The post office Horntown is going to be discontinued. When they started rural free delivery, they decided there was not enough to support Horntown. They had a rule of thumb, you had to have at least one home per mile, and so forth, so on. And Horntown just wasn't big enough. And they're abolishing various star routes. Star routes are very interesting. That started out were the very, very early days, before railroads, and before we even really had roads. They had to get the mail from one post office to the next. So they would solicit bids for a star route. They defined a route where you would take your mail, say from Horntown to Cloverdale to Greencastle to Bainbridge or whatever. And that was a star route. And they defined very specific requirements, called it celerity, certainty, and security. They abbreviated that with 3 stars. And they became star routes. So it's very cool. Talk about the star routes, and they were all numbered, and you could bid for them, usually for a 4-year term. But the star route then, or certain ones are discontinued, in addition to the post offices. And then Greencastle, additional service, 2 carriers. Then they talk about post office Mount Meridian discontinued, and then others. Very interesting article. And then in 1915, Then star routes were replaced or renamed highway contract routes, and the bidding process changed, and the contracts were done differently. And they're called highway contracts because now we've got roads. They're talking about automobiles starting to be used, or the highway contract routes, 1915. I think it's very interesting. And then here's a part of an excerpt of the 1966 sesquicentennial history called A Journey Through Putnam County. We'll have a nice description of Horntown. It says in the east part of Cloverdale Township, this is the Cloverdale Township section, where the Horn family settled. There was an early village called Horntown. Reuben Michael, an early resident, gave land for the post office. And then, as we've noted, at Postmasters, which was discontinued. 1901, the mail was carried by horseback to Belle Union, by Shirley Dorset, Cloverdale, by Chester Day. That's pretty cool. And being carried by horseback, those are the star routes. Then this office discontinued September 30th, 1901. At least one store and a district school, which we saw on the maps. This is a publication called Postmasters, 1832 to 1971, by the Postal Service, a handwritten ledger of all the post offices and the postmasters and their appointment. So here's Horntown, and then we see the postmasters we've talked about. And then it's discontinued, and then the mail is going to be sent to Cloverdale. They announced this on August 22nd and effective September 1st. 1901, as we've noted previously. It's very neat to look at this. We've been able to identify post offices, postmasters in Putnam County because of this, and then because of the star routes. Very important. They always like to just read the newspapers. It was a lot of fun. This is from 1913, Greencastle Herald, which said there's an epidemic of scarlet fever in Horntown School neighborhood, south of Belle Union, Cloverdale Township. The school has been closed on account of that. And of typhoid fever, a family moved from Spencer to Putnam County, and then the children went to Horntown schools shortly afterwards. 2/3 of the pupils had scarlet fever. 1938, from Cloverdale, says a band from Cloverdale played last Sunday for the Higgins Creek and Horntown homecoming. Higgins Creek, of course, was the waterway near Horntown. 1941, the annual Higgins Creek and Horntown reunion will be held Sunday, September 21st. Programs in arrange. Everyone welcome. 1941. Very cool. Then this is from a publication called School in Your Hands from the Putnam County Retired Teachers, published in 1978. Very nice history of the schools of Putnam County. This Horntown School number 1, photo taken 1916, said the school is across the road from Horntown, early village, the Horn family, previous owners, although other publications said Michaels was the ones that gave, Reuben Michaels was the one that gave the land to the school. And then later, the land reverted back to the Michael family, which had owned this land for 112 years. And then the young man at the schoolhouse door with the beat up straw hat was Dr. Ruby Michael, that time, Dean Emeritus, School of Continuing Education, Ball State. And then they list some of the teachers. Those little schoolhouses don't look much, but they did a good job educating their children. And then some of them again went on to be quite successful. This is a close-up of that same photo. You can see Dr. Michael standing in front of the Horntown School. Very neat photo.